Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to work on 4 Parrot's Beak that were being swallowed up by the other Parrot's Beak that were in the ground that I just dug up. So these guys were just hiding underneath all the viney growth that the ones in the ground had pushed up through the bench. As you can see, 3 of them, are in very, very, very shallow food containers. I think this is the top, so like you buy, I think these were eclairs, and the bottom is about 2 or 3 times thicker, and this is actually the top. So this is very thin, maybe 3/8 of an inch, and as you can see, the tree has pushed itself right up out of the pot. And if we take it out of the pot, you'll see massive amount of roots actually in the perfect form of the pot itself. And it's got some very funky roots that are certainly not all that pleasing. But these guys root from cuttings very easily, so when I'm about to do the root pruning on this guy, I could very easily chop all of these guys off and bury it, and you'll never see those roots. Of course, we now need to try to figure out where the front is. And in other videos, I've always talked about, even though it's in a rectangular container, it doesn't necessarily mean the front is here or here. I probably put it in the container thinking that the potential front could be one or the other. But the front is always negotiable. Until it's a finished tree and you've got it in a bonsai pot, you can always change the front. And I'm kind of liking this front right here. Let's take some leaves away. This part is dead. So we've got some interesting movement up into here, up into here, up into here. And so this back branch here is pretty sturdy, and so is this one. And they could probably both come off at a future date, but I'm going to leave them for now. But we have our first main branch, then we have our second main branch, and then we have this one here, which is a parallel branch to what I want my second main branch. See, the second main branch is in perfect position because it's on the outside of the curve. First main branch, even though it's small, is also on the outside of the curve. This one here is sort of on the inside of the curve. It's also parallel with this, so it comes off. Then shorten the rest of it. And then you see this growth here is shooting against the grain. You want all your growth to be shooting out. This one's coming against the grain. So we're going to cut it off. And I think I'm done with this one. You know, if we hide these guys like that, we have an interesting little tree. First main branch needs to be thickened, so I will just allow the growth that emerges from the first main branch to just go crazy, like they do anyway, to thicken that up, because your first main branch should always be thicker. It just looks better. This branch here just looks really weak right now. So that's number 1. This guy here is actually in the top of one of the strawberry containers. Also an incredibly shallow pot. But it certainly isn't detrimental. One thing that happens though is the surface roots thicken tremendously. Just notice how this root here is just crazy thick. And once again, super healthy. But that root visually just looks horrible. I can take it off basically right to here, because I've got some very nice radial roots right here. And as is the case, is this necessarily the front? I'm thinking more into here might make a nice front. So let's spin it all the way around and see what we've got. See, this into here is a potential front, but this is very stovepipe, and it doesn't have any motion. This has no motion. This has some nice curvature to it. Let me cut this off because it's going to whack the camera. So that could be an interesting front, but then you lose the curvature of the trunk. So I think the best front is going to be in here somewhere. I like the curvature, the way it comes up. And take off all the excess and figure out what we want to do. This branch here is keeping us from seeing the line of the tree. This part here has died. There's some more dead right there. So then what do? We have two parallel branches here coming off the same place. And normally I keep the thinner one because over time, if you keep the thicker one, it can thicken to the point where it's almost as thick as the trunk, and then that looks unnatural too. So I'm going to cut it to there. We've got some more growth going against the grain, so cut it to there. First main branch. So what I'm going to do, let's do this as the second main branch, and so I'm going to take it to even here like this. We can wire that guy down, and then I'm going to take it to here. And even though these trees are much older, and I'm eventually going to shorten this guy anyway, so I'm going to shorten it right now. If you're new and you say, well man, you just went back to the beginning, but not really. And this is a necessary part, at least for me, of creating decent bonsai. I never lament the fact that I waited too long to style a tree. They can grow, they can just sort of sit there like these guys did because they were hiding underneath all the excess growth of the ones in the ground, and now I think that'll be a very nice tree. Totally remove this root, change this as the front, bring that guy down, and this second main branch will certainly have a little funkiness, but hey, sometimes that kind of funky kind of movement in your branches can add quite a bit of visual interest. So that's number 2. Number 3 is also in a very shallow pot, which I think is the bottom of the eclairs. So the first one was the top, and this is the bottom. And this one is showing classic suckering from the base. So we have this growth here, which is basically a water shoot, and if we look, it's just straight up. No motion, no taper, no interest, no nothing. So we know that that's going to come off. And I'm going to, we have a couple of bar branches right here. And these are really, really low, because if you're going to go the rule of thirds, then this tree is only going to be about that high. If this is a third, a third, a third. So both of those are probably going to come off at some point. But trying to see where my best front is. And I'm thinking probably somewhere in there the scar will be showing. And so will this one. But sometimes trees get scars. Most of the time in bonsai you want to try to limit scars that are visible. But sometimes that just doesn't happen. And I'm going to take this one to here and in theory leave it as a sacrifice branch, because I think this is going to be my first main branch right here. This is going to be my second main branch right there. So I'm going to shorten this nub, shorten this guy to here, and then you notice it comes up here. It has a nice gentle sweep. It could come up here for the leader, but I may just take it to right here. I say may as I'm actually taking the cutters and chopping it off. And now that creates even more taper and more movement. The apex may still end up being out here, but now I've got real nice gentle movement and much more taper. So over time, this tree will develop, cut into there, that taper that you want in a bonsai. So sometimes taking it to perhaps a much smaller branch over the long run will create a nicer tree. And then I have one in an ice cream container that actually was sort of a renegade. It wasn't in the group. And I probably need to change the camera angle. Well, not so bad. Guess I can bring it up a little, bring the camera up a little. And the one reason I wanted to show you this was this has another classic water shoot. So we see all of the older growth has that kind of grayish tinge, and then this one right here is bright green. And it just recently broke because we had a pretty nasty thunderstorm. And let me take some more of this excess off. But if you notice, the water shoot just goes up and up and up and up and up and up. Of course, it just broke, so boink. So water shoots are almost always something that you just want to remove because they're too straight. They shoot straight up. And they're not going to really add to the design whatsoever. So he comes off. And water shoots are called water shoots because they appear typically after a dose of heavy rain or consistent heavy rain, and that's what we've been getting here lately. September is actually the rainiest month where I live, so it's not surprising that I've got water shoots on things like my Parrot's Beak. And then where are we going with this one? That's a good question. I kind of like this movement. It's got some flaws. This branch here is very stovepipe, and it's actually got some reverse taper up here. So maybe it'd be better off putting it like this. So get rid of the leaves so we can see the trunk line. Something like this. So now we have two branches coming off what's going to be the second main branch, and one is thicker than the other. And even though it's in a better position, I'm going to cut to the thinner one, if the thick one will let me. The problem is I don't want to go too deep because then I can chop off the thin one too. And shorten this, and shorten this. So here's all four, all trimmed up with nowhere to go. And in the spring they'll get a root pruning, I'll remove a lot of these roots that are unsightly, lower them down, and I may even put them in the bonsai pots. I think they're ready. And I'm not sure whether the tree is ready or whether I'm ready. So there you go, 4 more parrot's beak. And these were the ones that were just totally swallowed up by the other parrot's beak that were in the ground. So I'm so glad I got that stuff out of there. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll notified every time I put a new video out. And comment if you'd like. And that's it for today. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.